Yep. Sector 6 to me. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting into order. And we'll turn over the budget session to Mr. Dingle.
Let's go a few quick reviews before we jump into the departments, and we'll start with Public Works, I believe it looks like, yeah. Numbers are in the budget book. I think you're gonna find everything's in pretty good shape. You know, last year, our final mill levy ended up being 48.095 mils. If you go back and look at August, it was 40, it was a hair lower than that. But finally, for the first time in 3 years, it was done right by the county where evaluation, the number that, which we don't have yet, but the number we get on June 15th is going to change by November 1. It always has changed, it always will. If it goes down, the mill levy that we estimate in August will go up. If it goes up, the mill levy estimate will go down. It's usually a range about this big. I mean, it's nothing to it. But so when somebody says it wasn't what you put in the paper in August, we don't do mill levy. We levy tax dollars and, of course, equate it back as such. We don't have the valuation yet. So all the numbers we have now, and we're estimating mill levy, is based on the valuation we had last year. So if it goes down, we may have to adjust some and change the mill levy. We'll work that out. And before I better introduce people. This is Lindsay Miller. Lindsay's a new finance person, director, whatever her title is. Lindsay started yesterday or Monday. Yesterday. Tuesday, yeah. And Shauna had done a lot, and Shauna, as I said before, has done rockstar work and getting everything ready. And Tammy, of course, has been the support team. We've baptized her by fire jumping in, so she'll be here. And we also moved, since we couldn't broadcast out of here tomorrow night because of court, we moved Parks tonight. I really believe that we can do the next, sometime in July, we'll have another meeting and get the rest and Rockstar with it. But we're in pretty good shape. The budget we have so far, we have some room for some add-ons in there for some projects and stuff like this. One of the big things you'll notice, and we'll get this further down the road, is our debt percentage is going down as part of the budget. Last year we budgeted 23 mils for debt. Right now, based on the same valuation, because this can move, is about 7 mils less. Couple of things. We had a couple of things pay off. We had a little more cash reserve in there. Plus also, remember 2 years ago, the commission refinanced about $40-some million worth of bonds. And as the auditor told you last year, that's a savings of about $550,000 a year, or 3.5 mils, or 3.5 mils. So the things are coming together. So as that goes down, the general fund will go up a little bit as far as mill levy, and some of that has to happen. If you want to keep the number of employees you have and give reasonable pay increases, and we're at 2% basically pay increase we're going to budget in here, to keep employees. I think that's important for the city to keep quality employees here. Plus, we have the union contracts. General has to go up a little bit, so we have that balance there. But so I think we can do that. We're going to have some opportunities to bring up here. A few things we'll want to add here and there. We got some room to add up or tweak a few things. I don't want to get carried away too much because we still have the debt issue for a few more years. And so just because we're pulling back a little bit, maybe next year the debt piece might go up just a bit. So anything we do in general fund, we got to be careful that it's not an everlasting expense, but more an expense. Maybe if there's a small project we want to do to go bam, we can do that. Or we can build some cash reserve because we have lots of projects to do down the road, build some cash reserve and a little more cushion. We budget a $500,000 in general fund. We budget the cash reserve in there. So we did $500,000 again this year. We can increase that if we want, but that says we're going to keep some money around. I think that's very important.
Quick question. The bonds that we're only paying interest only on, is there an opportunity to start paying some of those down?
No.
Should we look at that or not?
Because we can't, they were not callable till 21.
Okay.
And that's the first opportunity.
That's the first opportunity we have. And hopefully we maybe can knock some of those away in 21 also. I think that's another goal we need to have is what we can knock away in 21. Yeah, they're not callable. I mean, we have called everything to date that we can call.
I just want to make sure that that was clear to the public.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, we have
we have
two
a few
bonds.
dollars and they're going to ask that question. So
Yeah, I get that. And, we're paying off, we refinanced when we could, and we'll continue to finance when we could. So, yeah, good point there. You'll hear me go tonight between, we have the general fund items. General fund items, are police, fire, parks, streets, some of our administration. And then you'll hear me flip over to our revenue generating, water, wastewater. And I don't get hung up in those much because we have, those plans are, a little, we got the rates in place, and that study was done on water and wastewater back in 14, the Raffaello study, which has put us in place that we're going to operate okay with those. So I'm not going to spend as much time in those because those are what they are. And utility funds, well, water and wastewater are technically not utilities, but let's treat them as a utility fund like electric or natural gas would be in those cities that have those. A lot of that takes care of itself because, you got your bond payments out there, you got that all planned, so we're gaining cash reserve. I think, it's important to know that our cash dollars, we have $24 million of different funds around. You didn't have those kind of numbers back before you thought the city was in financial trouble. Mike Ryan tells me he never saw that number when he was working here as chief, and that's before the crisis came. So all the things we've been doing have been build cash reserve, and I'm a real stickler on cash reserve because I've been through a disaster, and you got to have some around, and every day is not going to be good. I mean, even in general fund, we budget in there, and you got to have some cash reserve because what happens if January 5th rolls around, January 1st rolls around, and Ray has 5 snowstorms in a row in January, like we could have at some point in time, and we blow the budget away right away. That's going to happen. Hopefully we never have, big, but things are going to happen.
Well,
We
the
all
other thing
know
is
that.
too that we're very reliant upon sales tax. And
Yeah.
if we have a dip that we're not expecting, we've got to better have a few
We
bucks in
kept
the bank.
sales tax the same as this year's 3.5,
3.5.
3.5 million general fund, or at our local sales tax. It goes in debt service also. We kept that the same. We saw a little drop, but we're staying stable. I mean, we'll have some deployments early next year, and when we have deployments that really kicked us hard last year. The good part about it, when soldiers come back, it's very appreciated by the community. So I think we're financially in good shape. We'll have some room to do some things. I went through department heads, and you'll hear maybe a little bit of bleeding tonight out there. We maybe, if we can't, we may be able to reinstate some of it back here and there, just little things. But again, I want to bring you a budget we could work with. I think we have, because like I said, we have about $350,000 expenditures, give or take. Depends where the mill levy or the valuation comes in, that we can work with a little bit. And we'll have some street project things we'll talk about when Ray gets up here. Do we budget here, take it from there? Some things we do come out of multiple funds, and I'll use streets for example. Streets are paid out of general fund. We have that. We have that money there. We also have special highway money, which is about $650,000. $300,000 that's already committed for debt service. Okay, and then you have over here you have what the FFE money, Federal Fund Exchange, and as I'll mention my 515 this week, we're going to get more Federal Fund Exchange money next year we did this year. So you may remember Federal Fund Exchange money that comes from the feds, that comes to cities. Well, for us to use that money, it would cost a lot of money to use because you have to meet all the Fed requirements, labor requirements, bidding. I mean, it's not the. So they have what's called a Federal Fund Exchange, where the state, for cities over 5,000 population, get 90% of that money. We're getting 90% of the money, and the state held 10%. It was a good deal for us. We could use it for almost any kind of a street project. It was great. Well, the money had banked up here. We used it for, a lot of it we used up for Golden Belt, and we also used most of it, a lot of it, for moving the utilities on 77. Look, the sewer was $500,000, our share.
The gas
Water
line.
was 300 and some. Yeah. So thank God we had that in place, and we did that, and we did those projects. This year, as some of you may remember, the new ones were getting on about time. The Governor Brownback decided to cut that back to we only got 75%. They raised, changed from 90 to 75. I was in Topeka on Monday, and Governor Collier announced that that's being reinstated back to 90. That's $50,000 to us, give or take. Long story, that's 3 to 4 blocks more streets, The good part about it is on streets, and again, I want to still ratio yet, is we've done a lot of impact in the streets the last couple of years. This year, we're getting phenomenal impact on the streets, phenomenal. One, we had a great bidding process, which we got the best bid at unit prices that maybe haven't seen for 10, 15 years. Because one, oil commodity prices are down a little bit, but also we've developed a bidding competition that has been totally good. So as you know, and next week at the commission meeting, Ray will bring the change order for the street projects, because when you accept that bid for $850, I says, you're gonna see a change order of another $250,000, so we could spend the 1.1 million we had and get more streets done. Plus, the good part about it is Chad, for a bidding purpose, probably overestimates his quantities. Okay? And in some cases,
Look good when he comes in high.
it means that we can go do another 2 blocks now or 3 blocks. I'm just amazed how much black there is around town right now. I mean, it's good. Do we have them all yet? No, but we've got a lot of them. And so as we move forward, next year, one of the things in streets we've talked about in our group meetings with Call Valley is a roundabout at McFarland and Eisenhower, and that's going to add a little extra cost in there. So that extra cost can be either paid in general fund, we can up that 1.1 million, or we can pay for some out of FFE, some out of special highway. Special highway has always been used to do clink match. Well, we don't have a clink next year. We applied for a C clip, but it might be another year out yet in 20 to finish from 18 up to 18th
Washington,
Street,
from Home
18th,
Street.
and then over to Jackson. And then the state did 59 for us. So I mean, things are looking good. I mean, it's just exciting time. So I think with that in place, we got some room to work. If you have some projects, we can think about them here, work tonight, and then our next meeting in July. My goal is still to have the budget so where the commission can say, go to a hearing on July 17th. July 17th, you authorize it, have the hearing on the first meeting in August, which would be the 7th, I believe. And we'll get the budget put away well before the deadline date, rock and roll with it. And I think my goal has always been to keep mill levy the same, and I don't see a reason why we can't right at this point in time. You turn it over to Ray.
Okay, Ray said he's gonna start with airport, so in your blue book, go to page 10.
We're not going to worry about revenues a whole lot
No, but you do have that in case
Yeah.
you do have any questions or anything
because
like that.
you can't move revenues, you can move expenses.
We just want more revenue.
We're conservative, but that's okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Under the airport, we're looking at some increase in costs, and those increases are due to us taking over some of the fueling systems. Currently, right now, Kansas Jet Center decided not to give us supply us with 100 low lead fuel for the airplanes, for normal little airplanes that they call the B-1 airplanes. So we have to supply that ourselves now, and so that's what we're doing. And then what we're looking at doing, you'll see some of the major increases in there. Some of that fueling has been put under 0747 on some of them costs, and 0749. We're also looking at probably taking over the jet fuel. Right now, Kansas Jet Center is doing that, and they are supplying 35,000 gallons a year. And I think that's the purpose of that. They wanted to drop the avgas because we're only doing about 7,000 gallons a year.
Do we contract with them to be the fuel provider, or how does that work?
We had a contract with them when Kansas Air Center was there. They were working it through Kansas Air Center, and then after Kansas Air Center decided not to continue services, then those fuel services were given to Kansas Jet Center to take over.
So we didn't put any stipulations in there that you will provide XYZ fuels as part of your service contract?
We did, and then they had 60 days in the contract to say, hey, we don't want to supply that anymore. They're saying that because our tank does have some sludge in it, and we're looking at how to replace that's why they don't feel comfortable doing that.
Okay.
And so, but I've talked to numerous suppliers of fuel tanks, and right now they say it's okay that we're using the tanks that we're using right now. I've got it in for 2019, I've got it in there to rent brand-new jet fuel tanks and 100 low-lead tanks. And that'd be a cost of $700, that's what some of these costs are a little bit higher, $750 a month. And then whatever the fuel prices are. Right now, 100 low-lead is going, the price increased, it goes anywhere, fluctuates anywhere between $3.60 to $4.05, and we're paying $4.03 right now.
So would we clean the existing tank next year when we have the replacement tanks, or what?
We're talking a double check says it's not worth us to clean that tank. It's better to get a brand new one. So we're looking for, in 2020, to go for the KDOT's FAA funding to try to buy a new fueling system with that. But that's why those funds are looking, when you look at those numbers, you're looking at an increase, quite a bit of increase there. Almost 11,000 in 0749, and then another 9,000 in 0747.
But Ray, when we handle the fuel, won't there be more profit for the city to pay this cost back?
Correct.
Okay.
Right now, all we are getting out of that 6,000 gallons that they sold and the 35,000 they sold, all we get is 5 cents a gallon. Off flow HV is all we're getting right now. And I thought that number was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1,200 is all we get. Now, it's up to us to set the pricing on it. Anywhere, talking to the fuel manufacturers, they told me anywhere between 75 cents to 80 cents a gallon is what you charge on top of what we pay. And so when I figured it out, we could, with the jet fuel and everything, we could be making somewhere around $26,000, $27,000 for the year out that, so.
So we did put in some extra revenue in the airport side.
But we're only going to do the lower level fuel. Kansas, whatever's.
Yeah, for right now, that
We're
we're,
still going to do the jet fuel,
yeah, we're looking to do the jet fuel for
or
2019.
we're going to do it all?
We're going to do it all.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
instead of us just getting 5 cents
Yeah,
on
that's the
35.
joke.
Right,
So we either would do it all or we do nothing?
correct.
Okay, good.
And then also, there's a little increase, there's another 20,000 in there for what our share is with the FAA. We get 150,000 from the grant. That's our share to make sure that we match to do some work out at the airport. One of those things they brought up in the master plan was that we would have to take care of some of the obstructions out there. And the obstructions they're talking about are the power lines on 14th Street and the power lines down there on 57, just north of the runway, and then some trees that are along the runway there. So what we're looking to do is to put those lines underground so those obstructions won't be in the way.
And that's usually a 90-10 match, isn't it?
Correct.
So it's not horrible.
Because if you remember, this year we had to give 150,000 to Johnson
Yeah.
County.
Right, that was part of that
Right.
airport
Yeah.
presentation.
Correct. So this way, we'll make sure we keep those funds.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay. Let's go to the street department.
Street department's going to be page 25.
All right, under the street department, basically everything is about the same. We did up it a little bit in 603 under building maintenance. What we're looking to do is pour a couple more pads for some more buildings, little sheds that we could have out there. I brought a picture so you can see what we're looking at.
Salt, sand, and gravel, or,
It will be, we'll put a concrete pad underneath there. And this is what we paid for last year for a little over 14,500. We poured the pad and then they put the building on top of it.
So that 14.5 is for the building or the
For
pad?
the building and the labor to put it up, construct it. But we'll do the concrete pad ourselves.
Okay.
to save us some costs that way.
How many more buildings do you need?
We're looking for one for traffic in the street building, and then this year, and then we're also looking one more for the sanitation, and then one for utilities. I probably need about 2 more.
So one each year for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I'll try to get 1, 2, 3, 4 this year by, and you'll see that in the other budgets when we go through the utility budgets.
Right.
I've got that.
Some of these funds will be a third out of here, a third out of water, a third out of wastewater.
Right, okay.
Under 0632, which is the street maintenance, includes all our asphalt, concrete, salt, their pothole patch material, crack sealing material. That's at 170,000. That's staying the same. We've asked a little bit more for the streetlight parts, another 2,000 to maintain the streetlights that we have. Let's see. Motor fuel stays the same. Parts for vehicles stay the same.
I cut your tools back a little bit.
Okay. And those tools, we're looking at, when we buy those tools, those are various items, such as some of the software for the mechanics to run these, his diagnostic equipment. We got to update that, try to update that every year, so we can be able to diagnose some of the issues that we have with the newer vehicles.
Ray had asked for 14,000 of tools. I cut it to 11,500, and then office supplies, I cut that from 3,500 to 2,500.
If we work out an agreement with take care of the fire trucks from our friends to the north of us, are we going to need any more lifts or anything like that?
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
We did the partnership, isn't that right, Chief? They kind of,
The Macon has left the decision up to the local LRC. They feel that they can do it equitably, so.
Okay.
Try to save.
If we ever get to that, we can get into it and get going, and then do the next year budget. We'll have revenue to offset it.
Okay,
So,
just asking.
yeah, I think that's still a wonderful idea that they can't bring it around.
Right.
We could save them money and be great for us.
On the streetlight parts and traffic signal parts,
Uh-huh.
the 2018 year-to-date activity, are those really negative so far this year? And
Yeah. Do you want to cut there? Sorry. What-
0633 and
So
634?
some of that is going to be from when we have claims, you know, like, for instance, we had a major, we had a streetlight hit on Chestnut, and those are a little bit costly. So when I go out and I start a claim with whoever's hit it, and once we get that back, we reimburse where the expense came out of. So
Gotcha, okay.
for that one, for the 633 for the streetlights, that would be what that one's for. The 634 was the maintenance
KDOT.
from KDOT that we get for maintaining those lights.
Okay.
Some of these, and as we work with Lindsay, one thing we really need to stabilize that we need to probably work on is an expense for a certain item needs to be in that same line item every single time. Now, I'm not sure if we've been there. I mean, it's not all bad, but just, we're gonna stabilize these out in the revenue side, but that's money we got in also, so that's why you have the negative.
Okay,
But when we buy parts, it'll go away.
yeah.
Alan,
As Ray gets done at the store.
I noticed that the city contribution for medical is substantially different in the number from 18. It's
What line number,
Yeah.
what, you mean line number?
it's 535. 18, it was 34.5, and this year it's 21,226.
So,
Focus 17 active, and a number of people,
yeah, basically when we do the budgeting for that type of stuff, we have a spreadsheet and we kind of go off of current year. So if people have health insurance, we budget that there. If they don't, we don't. If we have a vacancy, we budget on the high end of medical and dental so that it kind of all
Got
evens
to
out.
budget generously,
Okay, thank you.
just in case. Anything else?
and our health insurance costs are flat again this year, down low and up 2%. Good.
All right, and as we go down, then again, you'll see in 0715, It's gone up to 24,000, and that's for those two buildings that we want for traffic and for the street department. And let's see here. And I think everything basically is about the same. And then you go down to contract operations 0797, that's $1.1 million again for streets, for maintenance.
And that's the one that we may need to have a discussion on, because next year's street maintenance, tell us what next year's street maintenance is planned right now.
Okay, for right now, it's planned to do a roundabout at the intersection of McFarland and Eisenhower, and then we'll also do it from that roundabout, we'll go all the way up to, on McFarland to 77, and then we'll also do Eisenhower all the way from Ash to 6th Street.
And Miller,
Right, and then Miller Drive too, all of Miller Drive.
because that's in bad shape.
Right.
Now, Chad has been telling us that that may cost about 1.5. So we got two options here. We can raise 1.5 here, or I'm real comfortable in paying the other $400,000 out of FFE and/or, well, even actually, because we're gonna have some carryover in special highways, which we'll get to here shortly. We're gonna have some carryover. So we can keep this 1.1 million. We can make it 1.5. We can make it 1.5 and it has as a cash reserve thing, and maybe take it out of there. I mean, we're establishing budget authority. I mean, so we got some real, I'm comfortable 1.1. If you want to raise it to 1.5, we can. That'll get us, that basically will get us back to that 48.0 some mils, or, yeah, we have to cut a little bit there. Or, but I think there's some room to work with. We can get into that discussion as we get to the final end there, but we'll keep that in place there to talk about. I think everybody believes, you know, I've probably been as negative on the, as a small committee, the roundabout at McFarland and Eisenhower, but I think everybody that takes kids to school there understands that and the flow of traffic there. And the good part about it is, as I mentioned earlier in the this evening, we have made impact on the streets that maybe it's time to do those enhancements, you know, along with those things, because we'll have that new walking trail that's going to come on the east side. So it makes a lot of sense. It's just, how do you want to spend your money?
I think we need to do $1.5 million, and I don't really care where we take it from.
Okay. I'm
I would
gonna,
agree.
I mean, wherever you feel like it.
I feel that we can keep the 1.1 here and come out of special highway, because when you see the special highway numbers, we're actually going to gain money in special highways this year because we don't have any clink project this year.
Right.
And you'll get that, but again, we'll keep this in mind as we move through the rest of the budget.
Okay.
Okay. And then the biggest jump you'll see in the capital equipment in 0835, there's $400,000 in there, and that is to buy 2 5-yard dump trucks that's equipped with the ability, with the hydraulics, to do the snow plows and the spreaders. So they're roughly, you get them about 190,000 a piece, a little bit more than that, depending on how
And
the,
you were replacing,
I'm replacing a 1993 and a 1997.
And we are putting
Replace
those
the
as
two
lease
then.
purchase for next year, so there's
so there's $400,000
revenue
of
side.
revenue shown as a lease purchase. So from a budget standpoint, these are zero impact in 19. Then for the next 5 years, you'll have a payment of $45,000, $46,000, $47,000 per year. I still think lease purchase has a lot of sense right now with interest rates in that 3 point, you saw those interest rates last time. It's a way to improve equipment. It's time we got to improve equipment, or Ray's going to wake up one day and not have anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And like I said, when he just told me he's replacing a 27-year-old and another one, and,
Right.
you know, those trucks don't get used a lot, but when they get used hard. And we want our equipment ready to serve the people.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any more questions on the street budget?
I don't think so.
Good. All right, shall we go to the water utility?
That is
Water
on page 38.
Might want to consider having a table of contents in these in the future. If Because I don't see one. Am I missing something here? or-
No, we threw that together for last minute for us.
Glad you know where we're going.
Otherwise, it could be a long meeting.
Yeah. If we
I
had-
got
if
my
we-
table of contents.
If we had to
Know
find
where
it.
we're going.
Thank you, we're glad you're here
Yeah,
to
thank
tell us.
goodness. You can't leave, sorry.
We've had that discussion already.
All right, under the water distribution systems, the wages have gone up a little bit. What we were requesting is that we're requesting for another full-time employee in that department. Currently, there are 6 people with the supervisor in there. One maintains the lift stations almost on a full-time basis, and the other 4 then have to do all the meter repairs, the water main repairs, sewer backups, sewer main repairs, all that. And we feel that another guy would be beneficial to help them out in that department. Half of it would be in the water distribution system side, and the other half of their salary would come out of the wastewater side.
If you ever want to see crew work, the raised crew where they have a 20-inch water main break, or 16 or any size, and they're out at night, and 4 guys show up, and we're well-staffed, but we're well-staffed for a reason. And that's why we don't have problems.
Any questions?
But we're understaffed, because we want to add an employee.
Right. We need more. I mean, they work hard, but we need more. I mean,
Because what you're saying, we were okay with 4.
no, they do well. That's what I meant. Thank you.
Didn't quite make sense.
Okay.
Sorry.
5 would just
I'm
make it a
fine with
lot
that.
better.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Right.
For safety.
For safety, right?
And for getting work done. Yeah.
Correct.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just trying to help you
That
out
would
a bit.
make things run really smooth, right?
Well, we want guys to not be overworked and be sharp, and because they work all hours of the day and night.
Keep going on to page 40 unless you have questions of distribution. Again, these utility funds kind of take care of themselves. We had and Kerry's here, and so he can help us too. We have, in essence, a new water plant operation also in the wastewater side. Part of and Viola gives us a contract number. And of course, they get so much for R&M or O&M, operating maintenance, that's a set fee per month. We then pay them so much a month for operating expenses. At the end of the year, if there's money left over, they write us a check, and we're gonna be getting a check here sometime shortly, and we had 100 and some thousand last year, and that's fine, because we had enough in there to work with. We do not know what it's gonna cost. We have different chemical operations, different chemical feeds and everything else. So Kerry came with me and brought 3 options. He brought what we think is maybe a high option, a middle option, and a real conservative option. The conservative option, in my mind, the bottom line is if they spend it, we're gonna write them a check anyhow. I think in the utility funds, it makes sense to budget the worst-case scenario, because we have the budget to do it, and if we don't spend it, we don't spend it, because they'll true up at the end of the year. And I'll admit we're wrong that we over budgeted. But what I don't want to do at the end of the year is come and say, hey, we under budgeted. We're gonna have to do a budget amendment because it costs Kerry more money for chemicals this year. We just don't know. I mean, and we're gonna figure that out, and I'm real comfortable with them.
And this is with the addition of the new systems and upgrades. And
Yeah.
Because
Well-
we don't know a new baseline of where we're at
But
with our
Kerry can tell you more than that.
processes and chemicals needed
Right. I mean,
based on the,
I don't want to get caught short-sighted.
right.
Yeah, we don't just yet. The additional, for both wastewater, they put in some brand-new equipment in some places. We expect some of that to be a reduction in cost, and especially with electrical and so on. But they got new blowers at the Southwest plant and a new process over there. We've installed a new DAF system, and that's gonna take actually a lot of chemical money if we run it all the time. And yet, that is yet to be determined. You know, maybe that's not necessary. That's how we'll optimize that situation and say, okay, these are the days that maybe we don't need to run it, but you're gonna have to start out running it,
Sure.
making sure that it works. And those chemicals are very expensive. Water treatment plant is more so. Eventually, we're gonna be feeding probably chloramines. That's been delayed a little bit, but we're gonna go for that for THM control. That's gonna wind up making us feed liquid ammonium sulfate. That's a chemical you've never used at the water treatment plant before. Also part of that process, and because we're doing a better lime softening process with the new equipment, we're gonna start feeding liquid CO2 pretty soon. Another chemical that's never been fed here before. So that's a brand new cost. We have the engineering estimates for it from HDR. They're doing their best estimate on it. We did our best estimate on it, and that's what we're talking about when we say maybe we've also switched from we used to use 2,400 volts for the high and low service pumps of the water treatment plant. We wanted to put in generation. Alan's biggest triumph there. You should come see that sometime. They're awesome. Scary, but awesome. But now you have full power at the water treatment plant, and you can run the process for, say, 3 or 4 million gallons a day now. So before the power went out, you had nothing, nowhere. But that natural gas cost, obviously, to operate those things will be a little bit higher. But they also went to 440 volts, because that way, before, part of that controversy was most of the plant runs off of 440. The high and low service pumps are 2,400 volts. 2,400 volts is actually cheaper. The higher the voltage, the less current you draw. You get paid for the kilowatt hours, which is a complicated thing that Alan knows all about anyway. So the 440 volt is going to be a little more expensive as far as electricity is concerned. On the other hand, we're getting news from Westar and KCP&L that they're going to be lowering some rates, so there's a lot of guesswork in these budgets. Alan and I have talked it over on many occasions, and there are 2 different components to the Veolia budget. There's an operations and maintenance, is the old we call it. That's people's money, salary, insurance costs, trucks, laboratory operations, insurance, office supplies. That's us. That's the fee you give us to run the water treatment plants, and we take what we take out of that. There's a limit budget. The limit budget is the other one he's talking about, and that's chemicals, that's electricity, that's gas. That's the stuff that no matter who's running it or what they're doing, you're gonna have to spend that money anyway. We spend it as wisely as we possibly can. If there's money left over from that at the end of the year, we give it back. If on the other hand, it is in the contract, we have to spend more money than that because it wasn't in the budget in the first place, and you guys actually have to pay us. Both of those things have happened in the past. I think 5 years ago, you owed us $5,000 or something like that, so.
And basically, what Kerry said down, we wrote those 3 options. I felt my recommendation needs to be you go with what he felt was the high option because of a lot of unknowns.
Right.
Next year, it's going to be a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I'll have a track record then.
I don't want to be caught.
Yep,
We missed that.
I agree.
We haven't run enough of that stuff yet to, we don't have it yet.
Understood.
More than you wanted to know, but.
No, that's good stuff.
Yep.
Thank you. Everybody good?
Everybody's good?
Thank you.
Shall we
We'll
go
cover
to-
water administration with the next group, next meeting.
Okay. Wastewater utility is going to be page 43. It starts at the very bottom, so you'll be flipping the page.
Again, the wages will go a little bit higher because of the full-time employee. Again, we split the cost between wastewater and water when it comes to employees. And everything's basically about the same. Again, we talked about we're going to build another one of those buildings for the utility department so they can store a few more of their pipes and hydrants and those type of things which are laying out in the ground right now. And then the big item under 0749, $430,000, that is for ACE pipe cleaning to clean the 3rd segment of the city's sewer lines, sewer mains. When they clean them, they also record it on a videotape. They inventory it for us, so that way we know what we've got in the system. So once we get done, the following year, 2020 will be the final year of that contract, and we'll know exactly what we have for sewer system and what repairs we will need to do to upgrade those systems.
And at the end of 2020, will they have pretty much looked at the whole city, or?
Yeah, they will look at the entire sewer system that we have, sanitary sewer system that we have, and then we'll know what we got to fix and repair, and then we can start budgeting in that. And then as we do that, then we can look at when's the next time that we have to start the phase of cleaning the city sewer mains again. And we can lay out a plan for that. And then the last item that's high is on 0835 for $65,000, and that is for a new van to house the new sewer camera that we just purchased last year. That'll be the installation and putting it in that van.
That one's also on lease purchase, so there's an offset on the revenue side.
Pretty special van, huh?
Yeah.
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 I mean, by the time you put the cabinets and all those other things to house the TV, the television screen, the monitors and those
Okay.
type of things, so, and then you're gonna have to have it so you can cool the area, because they got computer equipment and that type of thing in it.
Okay.
How much did your camera cost?
The camera was over $80,000.
And have you got it already?
Yeah, we use it
We've been
right now.
using
We're
it.
currently using an old 1992 ambulance is what we're using
Yeah.
it, and we're crammed for space for that. So,
We knew you were going to be needing a vehicle.
any
Questions?
questions?
Nope.
And again, on wastewater, what we said we carried before with Viola, we put in what he felt was numbers that we agreed would be responsible.
Okay, stormwater utility, we're gonna go to 49.
Under stormwater utilities, there is one employee that is paid out of this fund. It's usually a street maintenance worker number one. He runs the street sweeper. So his funding comes all out of here, out of the stormwater fund. And everything is basically the same, nothing that's gone up as far as the stormwater.
How often does the street sweeper run? How often do we do that?
We try to run it every week, but we've had some issues with the old one right now. We had to replace the elevators and the shaft on the elevators that picks up the dirt. That was a $4,000 fix, and we had to wait 2 weeks to get the part from California.
Do we,
We're going to bid this, we're going to bid
We're
for
going
this
to bid.
summer.
I thought that we're gonna one this year. so-
We have demoed.
For a new one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go away from the mechanical type sweeper. We're gonna look at a vacuum type sweeper. And so it'll have the brushes on it, but then it'll have a vacuum that'll suck that, the debris up in that way. But we'll also have it'll work twofold too, because then we'll have a vacuum on the backside that we can do storm drains with it. And we can vac the storm drains and get that all cleaned up. That way we don't have to use the jetter truck that we use in the utility department and in the wastewater department. And so one man should be able to do all that.
So just speaking about the cleaning of the streets, what kind of a schedule as far as getting the streets clean? Because I know you probably can't, I mean, it's hard to cover the whole city and all, but
Well, that's what we try to do. We divide the city into 4 quadrants. And then so we'll set him like in the southeast quadrant, which would be from 6th Street all the way to the west end of town, and then from Jackson all the way to the east end of town, and try to have him hit that quadrant, and then he'll move to the northeast, and then the northwest, and then the southwest. Typically, we don't do a whole lot in the southwest because there are not a whole lot of trees on that side, but most of it's right there between the southeast and the northeast, right in that area is where most of that is. And currently, he is in, with the street maintenance going on, it's kind of shoving him around, but he's in between 6th and Ash, and between Eisenhower and Jackson right now is where he's working.
We only have one street sweeper.
The other one is a 1997. The hopper is shot, and there's a few other things that are messed up on it. And the repairs to repair that would be
Too costly?
too costly for us to. It didn't make sense to repair it.
That may be a wish down the road to buy another brand new and have two newer ones, but
Yeah.
gotta walk first.
'Cause the one we currently have is a 2008 model.
Because those are $200,000 a year. Or, I mean, $200,000, or how much are they?
They're,
North of that.
depending on, they vary anywhere between 230 to 280,000.
And we pay for some of that out of both. We pay that out of stormwater.
So the-
Stormwater, but that's part of the rationale. We're doing the rate
Right.
increase too, so we can keep those services going.
Are we budgeting for a rate increase
Yeah,
with this?
yeah. You'll have that. I don't know if Bridget will have this meeting. Will have to follow me, but yeah, we have a
But
budget.
these
for it.
numbers reflect that.
Yeah, put it in the revenue.
So the new one that you're gonna be looking at with the vacuum and everything, that'll kind of help take care of a lot of that curb and gutter that's.
Right, that's what we're looking at, because we looked at the regenerative air, which is just strictly air, but the way our streets are, with the way the overlays are on the curbs and stuff, if you lose the seal, it doesn't work very well. That's why we're looking at one where you've got a broom, it'll pull the material to the vacuum, and the vacuum will vac it
Regular
up.
vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Nope.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We're going to move on to special highway, page 52.
What page?
52.
I didn't hear my index. Got a budget for a new building.
And basically, like Mr. Dinkle said, we talked about what we get from the special highway from sale of fuels and all that is roughly in the 630, 40,000 is what we've been typically getting, I believe.
Yeah. And we're not going to spend much in this one this year, so we're going to have a nice cash carryover. Which is going to be, I mean, helpful as we look at those other projects we have to do. Because what we've always done is 300,000, this goes to debt service of the money we get from the state, and then the rest was used for the matching on the clink projects. But again, you've done, what, 3-4 years in a row of clink projects we did. And the only reason we didn't do this year, because they changed clink to C-clip.
We didn't get selected.
We didn't get selected. The good part about C-clip is it's an 80-20,
Yeah, 80/20 this
80/20.
year.
Better match than 50/50.
50-50, but the 50-50 was almost guaranteed, so it's a wash there. We'll get one, it's just a matter of when.
And we made the application again. KDOT has called me, I have to call her back. Usually they do a site inspection, but they did a site inspection the previous year before, so they have an idea. I just need to call her and find out exactly what they're looking for.
How much longer do we have to pay debt service?
10 years.
10 years from now?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, our debt, and we'll talk about that more next time. Our debt, we're going to be looking at what we're spending now, probably to about 25. Because as debt comes off, I mean, we're going to be paying more bonds off too then. You'll see the first real break, I think it's in 26 or 27, when the amount, the $9, $10, $11 million of debt we're spending every year goes south. Making a progress. I mean, when we look at our debt, thank you, Lindsay. You know, our general obligation debt's now down to, as of January 1 of this year, is about 90, not quite 91 million. Our, what I call revenued bond debt, which would be all of our KDHE money for wastewater plants, water plants, and so anything in water and wastewater is now 32 million. We have $9 million left in KDOT loans. So our total debt in those is just a smidge under 132. That's as of January 1, 18. We're going to pay off in everything $11 million this year, correct? And then there $9 million next year. So it's coming that way. This number, as you know, 130 used to, when I got here was probably 160. Plus, you also got to realize the commission increased debt in revenue by about $25 million for the water and wastewater plants because we have to be good stewards of our systems. We're making it there. It's getting there, but it's still going to be a few more years. We have to do some transfer. Now, the question would be, as we move into those further years, will we have to do the $300,000, you know, and as things that a lot's going to depend on the 2020 election on the sales tax. If we get that to pass, if we don't get the sales tax passed in 2020 again, you're going to raise mill levy by 20 mills. Just plan on it. If you don't do this, if the sales tax doesn't pass, I mean, that's the same thing you faced in 2010. I mean, no different. But it's going to start coming down a little bit. You know, the KDOT money at $9 million. I think KDOT has about $27 million loaned out in this fund right here, and we're a third of it. They've wanted it back. We've always made our payments on time, and this is one you can't ask for any forget. I mean, I know there were some years back in 2013, 2014 where I think the city asked for, can we wait a couple of days? And it was no, and we've never been late yet. So they don't mow their grass, but we pay them on time. But don't get me started. Yeah. We're getting. I mean, you know, like I said, by the end of next year, you know, we're going to knock out another that 90, nearly $1 million general obligation will be down another almost 14 million more.
Really. The contract services engineer, that's just with Call Valley on projects through the special highway funds or what?
Right, when we do some, when they do those things for us.
Design for it.
Well, no contracts agreement.
Contract or engineering services.
701.
Yep.
Engineer services, Call Valley.
Right.
The contract agreement is the cost of doing a project.
Right.
And we may not spend it all, but we have the budget authority to.
Oh, okay, so we're budgeting that amount.
That's why I said I'm comfortable saying the 1-1 for street next year, including the roundabout. We can keep a 1-1 there if we want to, and maybe look at some other tweaks there, and we have the funds available.
Okay.
Solid waste.
Solid waste, it's the very last line on page 53, so you're going to be flipping straight over to 54.
Everything is basically the same. The only thing that has gone up will be up here. There's that. Under 0749. I guess we're okay. I thought we were going to raise that a little bit. They're going to raise the transfer rate from $50 to $52 is what I was told come January 1st.
I didn't touch that one, did I? No, I didn't touch it.
Okay. I think we must have thought we must have thought we got enough in there to take care
Yeah,
of it.
because you have 380. You spent 387 last year.
Right. But they've already informed me that they're going to raise it about $2 the upcoming
We're fine.
year, January, for transfer fee tonnages, so from $50 to $52 a ton. And we roughly, a month's average, we roughly average about 650 ton to 700 ton a month is what we average for tonnage on waste.
And I bring this up every year, and I'm going to do it again. I think, Commission, you need to take a look. I either believe the city should be in the waste business or not in the waste business.
Sole provider.
We transfer money from this, what's the transfer from the general fund out of solid waste?
Is it 160,000?
Yeah.
Yeah,
160.
we, of our solid waste money, the profits we make, we return it to our stockholders by transferring $160,000 or approximately 1 mil, not quite a mil, to the general fund. I call it the return of dividend. Any other company returns dividends to the stockholders, we do the same thing, okay? We have 3 other services that come into this town that use our streets, that sometimes the same street as everything else. I either think we should become a sole provider, or maybe the first step is to take a hard look at implementing a 5% franchise fee like we do for electric, because 5%, you know, if I buy $100 worth of electricity from DSNO at my house, or if you're from West Star, I now give $5 to the city to fund general fund for use of our right-of-ways, the streets, the alleys, and everything else. I really think we need to take a look at that. What that would do is that would enhance your general fund, because those extra streets, those trucks run down the streets. You could do, that's one option, maybe the first option to do, and then down the road look at. And I've always said we either get in the or get out of the business and just say somebody else do our business for you, and we get 5%. The downside of that is nobody does work better than raise people. I think we take care of people better than we, as good as the commercials, we do a good job. I believe we need to take a look at a 5%, that would help your general fund some too. Because right now, we're taking money out of here and giving it to the general fund because of the wear and tear on streets.
What is that, 5% of their total revenue? Like if it's a,
Yeah,
like if it's a different trash company,
yeah,
you get 5% of their revenue towards franchise fee?
right, they would have, they would, and they, of course, they don't pay it, they pass it on to their customers.
Sure.
But, you know, we have Howie trucks in town, we have Waste Management, and we have Salina,
Right,
But we're already the lowest cost provider.
and we're the lowest.
I
correct.
think it's something we need to do.
Well,
And I
but
thought,
what's the point? If you raise or put a franchise fee, they're gonna pay even more than they're paying now. I think you either get rid of them or we get out. I mean,
that's another option.
silly. You know, because, I mean, they're already paying more than the regular city customers. Now they're gonna pay even more if you put a franchise fee on them. You might drive them this way, but then how does he budget for how many trucks he's gonna need, additional employees he's gonna need? We don't know. It's an unknown, right?
Correct.
So I think we really need to do our homework before, I mean, I'm willing for making a big jump, but I mean, it's got to be,
The franchise fee,
Decision
I
for all of
think,
us.
the franchise fee, where I probably favor that as the first step, is I now start understanding the dollars, because I'll get return, because
Okay.
then I can do the calculation out.
back calculate how many
Yeah.
dumpsters we're going to pick up.
Yeah, and then what our added costs are gonna be. I mean, that's the only reason I wanna go that way. I mean, trust me, I thought about, let's just go get it. But I also gotta increase, do you buy 3 more trucks, or 8 more employees, or this or that,
Correct.
you know?
You know, I've heard that, you know, some company picks up everything. You know, they don't do special things or whatever, and
Yeah. And
so
we need to
I
get there.
want to make sure that we do the best job.
Right.
And that we are cost effective, but we still provide the best service overall.
Mayor Landis, what we do is, for 1787, we pick up a 95-gallon cart, and we will pick up 4 extra bags that are no more than 32 gallons, or 32-gallon cart, right?
Right.
So you got that, and then when the fall comes, we will pick up 10 bags of leaves in addition. When the leaf season comes, if you put out 10 bags of leaves, we'll pick that in addition to the 4 bags plus the cart. So,
I would still love to see a recycling component to this. I think the city could do that. You know, and if we're going to take it over, I think we need to do it the absolute best job
Don't
of
disagree.
anybody out there, so that no one can say, well, you guys don't do recycle. Well, yeah, we do now.
And
some of that-
We're still the lowest cost provider.
Some of that may fall in place with the discussion we had the other night.
Right.
But in the meantime, we can put in the franchise fee and start recouping.
We can work
some
towards
of
it and then figure out what we're going to need.
what I'd
I don't have a
also
problem with that.
like to see not only a spring cleanup time frame, but something in the fall as well.
we've done it in the past, and the unfortunate part of that becomes everybody throws everything
Got to
out.
budget for it.
Yeah,
Because that's more
and-
transfer fees we got to pay
And
for
we end
couches
up
and all that other
taking-
crap.
The street department helps out because the sanitation's got to go, so the street department and then takes, and you lose 2-3 weeks of street work for whatever purpose, whether it be fall or in the spring. I do know that we are still talking with Fort Raleigh about recycling. That component's still there. I think the thing that's holding them up is everybody in Washington DC right now.
Well, Mayor and I had a meeting with the
New Garrison
new and
Commander.
old Garrison Commander the other night, and tell me which fort. There is a fort, Polk maybe?
Louisiana?
Yeah, that is probably getting close to taking recyclables from the communities, and hopefully that'll be a model that we can follow here. And I know the new incoming Garrison Commander he's on
Yeah.
task as soon as we can.
Yep. Good. Yeah, I think we need to get that on our agenda this fall and get it going to implement by January 1.
And then the other big item is in 0835, and that's for $230,000. That's for another new truck. We have 2 trucks that are still, one is a backup, which is a 1997 model that we have, and then we also have one that's a 2006 model. So we'll take a look at what the expenses are on both those vehicles and then figure out which one we need to get rid of and which one we keep.
I thought we were trying to buy a new one every year anyway.
And we were trying. Well, that one, we still owe, I think, a little bit on that 2006 model yet.
We're getting there. I
Okay.
mean,
Well, I mean, if we're making $167,000 in revenue, why not just pay it off and move on?
and then I'd have to raise mill levy by a mill to make up that
Oh,
zero
'cause
fund.
it's a utility fund. Okay,
I mean, we do the transfer, which helps your mill levy.
right, okay. Anybody else?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Well, you look at the equipment that you had when you
Oh.
started on the commission. Okay,
Horse and buggy.
yeah.
Long time ago.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Looks we have Chief Johnson next.
Good evening.
Evening, Chief.
Howdy.
Before you want to start with ambulance,
I will start with ambulance.
page 13.
13.
Before Chief gets started, I do want to, I'll just front say that I just made your cuts in here. We're doing, as you know, a major remodeling of Station One. Well needed. Some of that was paid out of was tied with the city building things. Some, of course, was paid out of their fund, which is crews. The firemen have done the work, and when you get a chance to see it, and you will down the road here shortly, you'll be impressed, and it's well-deserved and well-needed. I also take the attitude when I look at how I develop all the budgets together is that he had requested money for some training grounds and some improvements to Station Two. I'm not arguing that they're not needed, but I think one of the things that made this city get through the financial crisis is you kind of focus that we work in one department, and then next year we kind of move to the next department, and Ray gets in turn, and 'cause that's why you develop the whole city. Not that this. All the things that the staff brought were good stuff. It's just a matter of how do I fit it in and keep the mill levy in place and do that balance. And like, I'm not picking anybody. We'll see if Ed throws me under a bus again this year. But the point, as he did 2 years ago, but the point is it's a matter of trying to balance it all together. And if it won't hurt my feelings if you say reinstate some. It doesn't hurt me at all. And he's going to, of course, Chief's going to give his good opinion on it, but it's just a matter of how do we try to get that together. And one of my challenges is to bring you a budget, what I did, and I'm okay with that, but we can take a look at that now.
Sir.
Okay. Our payroll is basically, as you can see, we're high on our overtime, and that is due to having multiple people out on surgeries. We've had up to 4 to 5 at the first of the year that were out on surgeries. And then also we've had a vacant position since January, and we're getting July 2nd, we'll be filling that position. So we'll be hiring one person to fill that position. Then when you add in sick leaves and you add, we have an estimated, we have anywhere from different shifts, we have from 14 days of sick leave to 74 days of sick leave on the shifts. This is from people having surgeries. These are not work-related surgeries, but these are long-term. And we recently had a firefighter who had an incident at his home where he received 2nd and 3rd degree burns. And he's going to be out for we don't know until he heals and he's 100%. We've had another firefighter that's had 2 knee surgeries. So we don't know how long they're going to be out. We're averaging approximately per shift, we're averaging approximately 13.8 people per shift out of 16. So our staffing is at the agreed minimum with the collective bargaining agreement. However, the premium number is 14. And the reason why I say that is that we can fill both our engines, our 2 medic units, and then our ladder truck can have 2 people on it, that can alternate between the ladder, the rescue, and the ambulance. So they can multitask depending on what the call is. If it's a water rescue call to Milford Lake, they can get on the rescue. If it's a third or fourth EMS call, they can jump the ambulance. And at that point, we do a callback for personnel, and that raises our overtime as well.
The good thing about, if you drop down to 520 and look at what's spent today this year, yeah, we're over on overtime, but we're below on regular time. So in the total group right here, we're gonna be fine. And it's just an adjustment we have to make through there.
Our call numbers are going up for EMS are going up about 2 to 3% a year. So we're staying busy. We're keeping the ambulances on the road as best we can.
And we get, what, 60 reimbursement from the county?
From the county, it's 67 for the county and 33 for the city on what is left over after we get our payments back from the insurance companies and any delinquent payments that we can get back in, and minus the 830 or 840,000 that we put in there for contractual expense and bad debt. That's money that we will never see. That's just money we will never see. That's your Medicaid, Medicare contract with insurance companies and those things. On average, from the big four, VA, TRICARE, Medicare, and Medicaid, we collect 35 cents on the dollar. A Medicaid transport, we might collect $50, $60, and it's a $850 service. So it's the nature of the beast that we deal with in the emergency services. This is probably one of the fewest business to where if you can collect 50% in the healthcare business, if you can collect 50%, you're doing good. And we have to live with that. So our payroll, as you see, remains steady. Most of our other line items are average for our business that we do. We have had some reductions, nothing that we can't really manage. I am talking with Mr. Dinkle about our medical supplies. There's basically 3 areas that I have concern. One is medical supplies, one is uniforms, and the other one is truck maintenance for the fire apparatus. We know that our medical supplies, on average, the cost is going up about 10% this year, depending on your vendor. Some are 5%, some are 10%, but we try to get the best pricing we can get. So it depends on what the product is, on what the pricing we get. So, and we
He had
use,
asked for 82 and I cut it to 78.
it's basically a $4,000 reduction. And I can't predict what we're going to use. That's the problem.
Are
don't
we
know.
seeing, this medical supplies, is that stuff we get through the?
That's all
vending-
the disposables.
How about, so like the drugs we get through the vending machine? At the,
And that's the narcotics through the vending machine.
Are we seeing, I mean, I know it's what, we've been into what, 6 months now, or 5 months, 4 months?
So far, it's basically a 15% savings.
How much?
15.
15, okay.
We're not buying a box of Benadryl. We're buying it by the vial now, and the hospital gives us their pricing. So
Is that unit price better?
their unit price is a whole lot better.
Okay.
They're in a consortium with the rest of the hospitals in the state with their purchasing power, and that's really helped us. Also, we reduced the amount of pharmaceuticals that we dispose of because we don't go through them at the end of the month, first of the month, we could buy a box, and at the end of the month, we may have to throw that box away, depending on when its expiration is.
What about the rest of your supplies? Do you buy those just yourself, or do you buy them through a buying group?
We try to buy through a buying group, through KEMSA and some of the other agencies as best we can, but we do get discounts, but manufacturer pricings and medical supplies.
Have you priced it through the hospital, buying from them?
It's a little elongated process, but we're working on that. It's not as easy as with the pharmacy because we have to go through a different office.
Well, I mean, since the hospital is a county facility and the county's paying 2/3 of the ambulance budget, it would seem that would be an avenue for you.
We've gotten the narcotic system down to where it's pretty much a normal event now, and I am ready to move forward with that. We just have to get with the right people.
I mean, the hospital at Bygram it's pretty big.
Yes.
So I think that would
If they can help us reduce and
help
get,
you with some
get
pretty
the
good
equipment we
significant
need,
savings.
I would come to the board with a sole source request.
Yeah, I would pursue that as soon as possible.
I'll see what I can do, sir.
Thank you.
Going down, on the others, we had a few $500 reductions, which we can deal with. Let's see, medical expenses, nothing really more. The one that always throws me is the contractual expenses, because I see those big numbers and I'm like, they don't really mean anything to us. Uniform expenses, according to the bargaining agreement, each firefighter gets $200 a year to spend. Between the two budgets, I have about 17 in this year's budget, which leaves me about $6,000 to outfit them with T-shirts, dress shirts, the badges, the hardware, the belt, the pants, and those things they need for daily uniform wear. You figure it's about $3,000 just to buy 54 T-shirts. It adds up quickly, so.
In EMS, I kept it at your requested amount.
I think it was fire that we reduced.
Fire reduced it, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be requesting when we get to that one. We did put in for another ambulance. We have one ambulance that is still in service. We wanted to replace it this year, but another ambulance decided to give out. So we still have our 01 ambulance in service.
And Shauna has that as lease purchase, so
It'll be,
this number's a bounce off, and then you'll do the payments out.
it'll be drawn out payments as you see down in the, on the category 90 there. It'll add to that debt service payment. But we have still have the 01 in service because we had the 2006, which had already had a motor replacement not even 3 years ago. It was $30,000 then to replace it, so it's like $35,000-$40,000 once you take it apart, replace the motor, put everything back together. And the value of a 2006 ambulance with 180,000 miles is $30,000. Not worth it. It's not worth it.
I would love to do ambulances without lease purchase, and we will someday, but it's the way we have to operate. I mean, get that debt service down a little bit and keep moving that back, and we are. I mean, the day will come, because we should have that kind of money, but we also got to keep the proper equipment.
And we are looking at
Part
it,
of the 3% interest rate is not hitting as bad.
and we are looking at a heavier duty chassis to try to reach that. Right now, the standard for what we buy now, what we've had on the Type 3 ambulances is usually 5 to 6 years. We're trying to reach out to maybe 6 to 8 years with a heavier chassis. If you get you have to look at the maintenance of it and what it costs. If you look at the van chassis, when Jeff has to go in there and do a repair, he has to take the passenger seat, the driver's seat, the middle cowling out, and then pretty much the whole front end has to come off just to get to the motor to change a valve or something like that. So with going to what's called a Type 1, which is the pickup truck chassis, like our new ambulance, lift the hood, go to work. With all the stuff under it, probably still takes the same amount of time with the new technology. But we are looking at going to hopefully a M2 chassis or a class chassis that like our trash trucks and dump trucks. Not as beefy and not as hefty. It's called a business class. And that's what Riley EMS drives, Dickinson EMS drives. And we've talked with them, and they've had great success with those trucks.
Chief, are you still going to have the ambulance on display next Tuesday night?
Yes, we will. I am planning to have the new ambulance up here next Tuesday night for you to take a look at. It is a very nice piece of equipment. They
Take a look at, and one thing I'm glad we've added is the automatic
the power lift system for
power
the
lift.
stretcher.
We no longer have to have men on their backs put an ambulance into or caught into the ambulance. It pulls it by itself, and some that I've had in other cities, and I think it's kinder, gentler on the patient, but it's also kinder and gentler to our people.
Yes.
That's good.
It's ergonomic for the medics because, taking a patient from their bed to the stretcher, we can pull shoulders, we can hurt backs, we can do those things. So if we can reduce it somewhere else, when they have to bring it out, it's powered, it'll raise itself, it'll lower itself, and you can put it in there, and it charges itself while it's in.
Pulls itself into the ambulance, right?
You just have to push it gently.
A little bit,
You can
yeah.
do it one-handed. It's very, very easy, very simple. And we can still use our older stretchers with it. You just move a couple pieces, and the new old stretchers will fit right in.
Can you talk about item 0830, communications equipment? That's something new that I don't have.
Yes, ma'am. We need to start replacing our handhelds. We have been going through a process of demoing and trying out different radios and getting the cost estimates for them. We have radios that are ending of their life cycle. Similar to the issue PD had last year. Actually, some of the radios PD had last year, we took so we could still have some spare radios. But they're pushing 10, 15 years, and we need to upgrade our radio system. And that's the hardware, that's the handheld radios that the firemen carry. So we're hoping to start buying maybe 2 to 3 a year, depending on what we have budgeted between the fire and EMS budget.
Because they cost, what, $1,000, $2,000 or so a piece, or?
They can cost anywhere between $900 and $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, depending on what you decide on. The model we're looking at is somewhere between, depending on the manufacturer, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,800. But it's intrinsically safe. It can take the heat and all that. And I'm not going to say it's fireman proof, but it's somewhat fireman resistive.
Okay, you ready to move on here? Fire?
Flip to page 23.
Well, the overtime issue is the same because we split the overtime between fire and EMS. It depends on, the overtime numbers really depends on who works, who we can get to come in and do that work. So it is what it is when you have over 140 shifts of open time, and that's 24 hours at a time. At time and a half, on average, if you take all the overtime salaries, what we would pay a firefighter for overtime, and you average out the whole department, it comes out to an average of $28.79. Some are higher, some are lower, but to sit there and go through 54 people and figure out what we've paid them in overtime is mind-boggling. And I wouldn't want Kelly mad at me. I wouldn't do that to her. But going through our line items, we're looking at things for operational needs. Let's see. Parts and equipment, vehicle parts, if you see it there, that was one of the line items I'm concerned with because our fire trucks are coming out of warranty. So a lot of the work we've been getting done is warranted work. They'll warranty it, they'll fix it. We're coming to the end of those warranties. So one of the things I'm concerned about is how much are these big trucks going to start costing us? And I have no idea. I have no idea what those expenses are going to be until we start incurring them.
Was that line 651?
Yes, sir, that's line 651.
He had asked for 25, I cut back to 20.
Well, we're at nearly 24,000 already, and we're
Yeah.
not
Yes,
even
sir.
halfway through
Yeah,
the
but
year.
hopefully, yeah. But I also looked at the previous incoming.
And the same with the computer hardware, you're already above your budget. It was at 3,000, now you're over 5 already on that.
Yeah, computer numbers I get from Jim.
Oh,
Where we're going to a new reporting software. We changed from iPads to Samsung tablets so that we can communicate with the software that we're going to be using. Some manufacturers still aren't Apple oriented. Looking down the other supply lines, they are manageable. We don't really have a lot of issues there until we come to 746, which is the other half of the maintenance and repairs, which is usually what we pay the labor out of. That was reduced a little bit, but I think that would be manageable. Let's see. And then when we come down to, I think it was, yeah, there it is, I'm sorry.
I reduced that by 3,000.
Again, we have, like I said, we have 16,000 total between EMS and fire for uniforms, and 10,000 of that we set aside for whatever the firefighters buy with their $200 for uniforms. So it leaves us $6,000 to try to manage the base uniforms for 48 on duty and 4 staff members. And that's 52 people, and when you do the math for shirts and pants and replacement of the T-shirts and the shirts and things like that, it gets pricey.
We talking about what, 682?
That would be,
No,
yes, 682 uniforms.
hang on, wrong budget.
So on page 24.
Yeah. Yeah, I reduced that by 1,000.
And again, just like the EMS supplies and all, apparel costs go up every year, and there's nothing we can do about that. We just try to find something that's in our price range that we can manage. We're lucky our T-shirts come locally, so we do get a little better pricing there because we buy locally. But as for the duty pants, the dress shirts, and the hardware, that's not a local thing that we can just go out and get. As we, the Quantico was here, but their prices for their uniform shirts for us were just, we couldn't afford them. So we have to look outside the community to find our shirts. Because we cannot have, we try to keep it as cotton or as close to cotton as we can with the manufacturing process, because anything that's rayon or nylon that you're wearing and you go wear it on your turnout gear and you wear it into a fire, it's not good. The rayon and nylon doesn't react well to heat. So we have to look out for those things. And again, down towards the bottom, we've had some cuts, but we can deal with those. My main concern are those main 3, the EMS supplies, the uniforms, and the maintenance on the apparatus. Other than that, we should do well with our budget. The communication equipment, again, $8,000. That gives us a total of $16,000 to buy handhelds with. And those are desperately needed. Some of our radios are, well, Chief Brown, you bought some of them, I think. So we're there for that. Other than that, that's where we're at on the fire budget.
So you have enough for radios?
It'll start us. We need 40 radios, and that's what I'm looking for is to do an AFG grant to bring our department into what's called P25 compliance, which will allow us to buy new radios and set things up for our fire department so that we meet that objective.
What's their match? Or they have a match, or is
It would be the
7%?
AFG grant, so it would be probably, I think, 10%, 5 or 10% match. So we could upgrade our complete communication system from our repeaters on down to our handhelds, depending on who the manufacturer and how they bid. And that would put us in line to meet the P25 compliance. That would open up some other fire grants for us, and also allow us to be integrated into what's called FirstNet, which is a data sharing option for the emergency services, and that's going to become a requirement too to get grants.
So we need to get going on that.
I'm working on it, sir. The P25 grant is hideous. It's hideous. You have to do a lot of background work on that one. The FCC is very particular on those type of grants.
Let's pop to fire reserve. Page number?
57.
Thank you. I got a talking index.
On the fire,
Reserve, as you know, we have the ability to levy up to 2 mils for fire reserve. And of course, one of the goals of fire reserve is to, you can buy stuff with it, but I always like to see fire reserve, we accumulate some more dollars in there, that when you have that bad day, you know, because as you see here tonight, a lot of stuff they buy is not cheap. And so have it in place. And one of my goals in making a move, this one here is I want to start increasing that cash balance a little more so we can have that rainy day and survive through it and not have to push things or have to go, how am I going to buy this? And doing that with the fact that we did a pretty good job in the, 12, 13, 14, when you get new fire trucks. I mean, you move towards that, but start getting some reserves built up so we can move the next step after that.
and one of the bonuses in the fire reserve is we're making our last payment on our apparatus this year, 2019. In this budget, we'll make our last payment. So that will help us build that reserve up quicker. We were putting out basically $250,000 a year. This last payment is $157,719. So we'll be able to start putting those reserves in. So hopefully we never have that rainy day, but we have it for a project that we could really use it for.
Those 3 new trucks would be paid for then, Chief?
Yes, sir.
All 3 of them?
I believe 2
At
of
the end
them,
of 18.
one of them came on an AFG grant and 2 of them were purchased through lease loan. So this would be the last payment for them.
Pretty good.
I think the engine one is a 14 and the other ones are 15s. The other engine and ladder is a 15. And that was also the reason why we didn't get our AFG grant this time. Our trucks are too new. They look at the 3 trucks and go, well, you don't need a 4th one because you've got 3 new ones. And there's other departments out there with trucks that are 20, 30, 40 years old.
It was a big deal to get that grant. We tried for several years and we finally got it.
It's a highly competitive grant.
Some help from back in DC.
It's highly competitive.
I did a couple of cuts in there again with a goal to save money and to build that reserve up because I want to get that balance up a little bit because we're going to all feel better if we get the balance up a little bit.
Definitely, when it comes time to replace the ladder truck, that'll be a nice thing to have because right now, the one we have is worth $1.3 million. They're not going to get any cheaper. And we have to have a aerial. Need that.
How long will it last us, the aerial we have now?
The average lifespan of an apparatus is between 15 and 20 years, depending on how well we do our maintenance and how well we take care of it. Some trucks go past that, but usually that's the mark.
Don't allow tall buildings. Change our building codes, nothing more.
Any other questions on fire?
No.
I think we're good.
Now we bring
Thank
parks,
you.
recreation,
Thank you.
and
Chief.
fine staff.
Chief.
Nice job.
And he brought the whole crew.
Buddy.
Brings his support.
Ed's really ganging up on you.
He really
throwing you
is.
under the bus this year.
Throw him under the bus.
2 years ago,
Throw
as we
him
first
under the
got
bus.
working, he made the comment that he says, I had 30,000 there, but the city manager cut it back to 20. I had 10,000 there, but Mr. Dinkle cut it back to 5. And it was like, darts were coming my way.
Sorry,
I
guys.
did 'em.
I just took him like a man. Yeah.
So Ed learned to overinflate this year, or in the
He
next couple
doesn't.
years.
We've gotten, he has a great budget, don't get me wrong.
Okay, I think we'll start with the building maintenance budget.
So we're gonna start on page 4, and you'll just kind of gradually keep going for his budget until we get to recreation.
Actually, as you look at this particular one, this one, there really basically is no changes. We're not asking for any additional help. The line items, we really made very few changes. It falls right in line for what our expenditures are, so we think we're doing pretty good on that. We do have, if you notice on here, we do have, already for the year, we're showing a deficit of like 24,000. That's because we've already encumbered the roof repair at City Hall. But then the 100 of that comes back, 120 of that comes back to us. And no real projects in particular with this one. building maintenance, each department kind of budgets their own projects, and we just help facilitate it, so we don't really have any extra dollars or projects for this.
Okay, everybody's looking at me, I'll go ahead and say it. The floor at the municipal gym, is that building maintenance, or is that,
That's building maintenance.
Building
Capital.
maintenance pays for the maintenance of that
Maintenance of-
building
Yeah.
and the Opera House.
that floor is just
Awful.
unsightly, and it has been for years,
What would it cost?
depending on what you want to do.
It's half the size of 12th Street. When we did 12th Street, I had them look at that one too, and I think we're under 20,000. It was more or less 16 to 17,000.
Under 20.
Yeah, under 20
Redo or
to redo.
put new board?
Wait,
No,
You-
not new boards, not new boards. We had some folks tell us that
Thought they were
they
too
thought it
thin.
had been sanded down too far, that they couldn't sand it and do it again. We've had other companies now come in. The last company that actually bid on 12th Street that just refinished St. Xavier's gym floor a few years ago, they came and looked at it, and they believe they can do it just a refinish.
That's maybe worth it then.
I think so. I mean, it's been
Had different people say
a
it, but like I
pit
said,
for
the folks that-
years, and we have, blood drives in there, kids use it for basket, it's just horrible.
For now, let's kind of write a note of
Just make a
$20,000.
note.
$20,000 for gym floor.
Okay, got it.
That enough?
Yes, I think.
Everybody
that
okay with
would
that?
cover it.
Yeah.
Well, my thought was, that's not, is it even used as a gym much? I mean, can we go with a tile or something more used for its
Used a
purpose?
lot of-
I thought they still use it for
Yeah,
basketball.
it gets,
Well,
They
used-
do, they
it gets,
use it,
it
I
gets
think like
used
every
for,
Tuesday or
yeah.
something. I'll be seeing the police and I know some
We
friends
got,
play over
well,
there.
we,
Sundays.
Okay.
our
Yeah.
firemen use it for,
Recreation.
And I think it would get used
Recreation and-
more
and
even if it was
strength
in
and
better
conditioning.
shape. I think that
but
makes
we
a
have
difference.
basketball teams there a lot of nights.
Okay, I was just
Like
curious.
we're fixing
Is it
the
even
tennis
getting
courts
used for
this
that?
month. We haven't, do you know when they're gonna show up? Are they,
I received the email yesterday that all the product has shipped, so I should expect it in my shop.
I'm just saying, we're fixing something over here. Let's do something over here.
Yeah.
We have room.
Especially after all the maintenance that went into
Well,
the
We're all good
building.
with that?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
we're good
We'll
with
plug that in
I-
at the very end.
I
then.
know, people be in
Lindsay
there.
has it, so.
Okay,
I
thanks.
see them quite a bit.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
I
no.
just,
I'm good.
I get these things pop in my head and just,
And we want to go play basketball, don't we?
Brian, I'm ready to.
When your
to
eyes,
dunk on
when
you.
your eyes started flickering, I knew we had to
But
stop.
we'll go play dog.
Dog, not horse.
Yeah, horse, yeah.
What can we do?
Carry on, please.
Okay, like I say, basically, there really was no modifications in this one other than the salary adjustments, so the bottom line is within just the salaries and the benefits that were changed, so if you have any questions about specific lines, I could ask them, but, or answer them, but.
Carry on.
Okay. Now, the next one we're gonna go to is the parks. It should be in line right in your book there, right behind that. Couple of projects, we're pretty close in line overall budget, but we do have some things that we've pointed out we want to look at. We'd like to try to basically redo Rayford Stadium infill completely, totally demo it, haul in new dirt, regrade it. Basically, back in 2006, when we originally remodeled Rayford Stadium, we want to go back to that kind of level of restoration. We've been spending $6,000 to $8,000 to $10,000 a year adding material and just doing maintenance work. The contractor has told us we're at the point where we're really not getting as good a quality field as we need. We need to go back and take that back apart again. So I think, let me pull it here. I think I had it like 30,000 or 39,000 was my estimate to do that.
The whole line limit's 50, yeah.
What number? Line are we on?
749.
749
Okay, that's what I thought.
749, yeah.
was my reduction too devastating?
It's going to be, I would like to visit with you.
Okay.
When I saw that reduction, I did look at some of our other projects as far as contract services and our histories. We don't always do everything that we plan on doing or want to do.
He had recommended 64.5, but again, just as I worked through all the budgets.
Because 25 of that originally was what we basically do on other services annually anyway. And so that's what kicked it up, adding that 39.5 to it. And then Alan reduced it back, like I said, to about 50. But I think we can make it work. But historically, we're at that 20 to 25 is what we're spending.
So they
annually
basically grind up the whole infield,
They're going to
new
remove,
sod,
we're
new,
going to redo the infield, and where the grass line starts, we're even going to have to tear some of that out so far back to get the grading back again right. We're building a lip over
At what time of the year you do that?
Yeah, is that-
Pardon me?
Spring?
At the end of the season?
We want to do it in the spring, I believe.
How long does it usually take?
So can you
I
have
really
ball?
don't know all the details. I just kind of got a really a
few
good
weeks.
quote
Can
for
you
it to
have
see
ball
where we
by-
want to go.
How do you play ball April?
about the
How do you
high
play
school
ball
team?
April 1st?
We'll have to figure that out, yeah.
What do you do at the end of the season?
We may have to do it at the end.
Probably easier to do it this fall, as long as the sod has time to take. Because the high school
Hadn't got
team's
that
gonna-
far into it. It.
Could you
know,
do
at
it-
this point?
Would it be doable to do it this fall?
Oh, I'm sure we could. I mean, I would assume,
I can look at budget on that.
We have money to do it.
if we want to
Yeah,
do
we
it.
look at that. It's first time we.
Yeah, because really, once the brigade kind of shuts down,
They're
that's
done at
our-
the end of the.
Because I'd rather play
time.
grass in the fall anyhow.
No tournaments or anything
well,
that we know of?
not that we know of. I mean, but still, by the end of August, they're gone.
Don't you want to play grass in the fall anyhow?
That's preferable, especially
Yeah.
because the high
Best
school
time.
uses our field, and they start in February,
Will
basically, when on the days they
we
can
lose
get
the
out
high
there.
school in 21? They won't be using that anymore, probably after they build their new.
I don't know. And I think that's just still
They're
some
still
debate.
figuring
there.
things out there as
Yeah, I
well.
mean, Babe Ruth still uses it on American Legion. I mean,
And-
there's lots of other teams
And
besides
he'll still
Brigade
have,
use it.
hopefully the brigade will, still be, I'm sure,
Oh, I think so.
we need to fix it. I have no problem.
Yeah.
It's getting
Let's
bad.
look at,
Like I say, and every year we add, or every other year we're adding material, but like I said, the professional's
may
opinion
have
was
enough
we
room
need
to-
to,
let's-
we need to go
let's
back
look
and
at some
start
costs.
over.
Okay.
And
because
I can
I'd
get some
rather,
harder
I'd-
numbers. I
if we're
just
gonna,
requested a
I'd rather do
proposal.
it in the fall or the spring.
We did some work this spring, not on the grass, but on the infield, and that's when he told me. And so I figured, let's throw it in the budget.
And then what are the yearly costs to really truly maintain that field? I mean, because you still have to add material every year to the infield.
We normally do, and that's what I mentioned at the beginning. We're anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 a
Okay.
year that we're having a company come in and top dress
Right.
and do that. You know,
And they taught your staff how to maintain it.
yep. We didn't do it this year because we've got some pretty good guys that's been doing it, but we actually budget for a little training to have them come every spring, especially when we bring on the seasonal help with the brigade. We got a bunch of people that may not know how to do it, so the guy comes out for a day and even helps with the brigade folks that are doing the field work. The
Is there any
seasonal
work that
employees.
needs to be done at the other ball fields in town, North Park, South Park?
We just completed 2 of the 4 North Park. South Park really doesn't get played on very much at all.
They're using it for practice fields
We're
mostly.
using it for practice field. 2
I know
years
you did, I
ago.
noticed you
Are
did go
the
out there and do
fields
something
that-
on
I was going to say,
field 2, they did go clean that infield up, but
Yeah.
number 3 is
Three,
completely
we
grassed in.
basically abandoned. We haven't done anything to that.
3's
for
been
a-
abandoned basically.
For a
and
long time.
2's at least finally got the we
Well,
got, somebody got the,
and
he
2
must have drug it, it looked like it got drugged because I've been up to practice.
Do we need to bring 3 back?
Yeah, is it abandoned
I
for
don't
a
think there's a
reason?
demand for it.
Okay.
I mean, maybe for practice fields, maybe.
for a practice field,
And
I
see,
know there's demand.
There is
for it.
demand.
Yeah.
See, we've got Saratoga
Definitely-
Field
Donna
here too
definitely
that
sees
doesn't
that
get
at
used.
12th Street.
We got fencing up. We should have a ball field
Yeah.
that's
I
usable.
don't have a bit of problem with that.
You know, otherwise we need to tear the fence
And I think
down.
we, and I agree with that too, and I've heard a lot of complaints about that from parents
It makes us look
up
bad.
there on South
yeah.
Park, that 3 is basically unusable,
Yeah, it's basically
and
abandoned.
2 wasn't usable until we did something here recently with it. I mean, I actually saw a traveling team out there with hose, hoeing big clumps of
Yep,
grass
they do that
out of the
volunteer.
infield, and that shouldn't happen.
Do those fields get sprayed for weeds and stuff too? The
They haven't
burrs and
been.
everything?
Get an estimate for us to take a look at the next time we have a session
We can
on-
do it. And
on
what I just wanted
2
to
and
mention
3.
too was,
Yeah.
it's not just the infield now in South Park. It's been so many years they've been used. The outfields are pretty rough. I mean, if we're gonna do it, we wanna look at getting this right.
Get some dollars so we can take a look at it the next session.
It'd be nice to have all 3 of those fields, so we would have the availability for practice. All 3 of those ball fields disced and,
2, one of them's a dog park now.
no, there's 2 at South Park
And then
in the
one at
back,
Sertoma.
3 and 2,
Yeah.
and then there's one at Sertoma.
Oh, I thought you were talking about 3 at South
One
Park.
at Sertoma
Like I
too.
said, Saratoga was somewhat
And
abandoned.
I think it'd just be nice that we had all those, and not to mention
Yeah, for-
Sertoma's on the
we do that.
main
We can bring
thoroughfare
later
in
this summer.
town.
Right.
And it looks like,
Thank you.
doesn't look very good when people come to town, that field
Right.
looked like the way it did.
Oh, and if
September
they're,
rough.
if they're in that status of abandoned now, then if we get them cleaned up and we make it known that we've got these fields, maybe they'll get a lot
I
more.
believe it is known.
It's known, but we're just not taking care of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's
And
get
if we need to
some-
budget for it, then give us numbers.
And I
Let's,
did field a lot of complaints about that,
Good.
going down there
Okay.
2 or 3 times this year already. I had a number of parents come up to me and say, look at this is ridiculous.
We'll get
And I had to
some-
agree with them.
Yeah.
Sure. No
We'll
doubt.
get some numbers and bring them
More than
for
happy to
next
do that.
session.
and we need to be in communication with the baseball association, softball. When do you start using your fields? So when do we need to get these ready for
Right.
you? So we've
I
got
would
good
think-
communication.
I think that Donna would have a lot of that information as well from when junior baseball puts together their agreements.
Because
and-
these are our customers, and we need to make sure that they're happy.
It's a quality of life issue.
Absolutely.
We're out there.
And if we got a
Like
couple
I
extra
said,
dollars, let's put them in
Sertoma
our
and
parks.
both 2 and 3, I think we
people
all
use
ought
it.
to be, practice quality.
They get them up, you bet.
Be like they
Don't argue, don't disagree
With,
at all.
with good seed and
Right.
no
Yep.
weeds and properly
Get 'em
disc
on the
infields and.
maintenance.
Good.
Yeah, get them on the same maintenance as the
We,
other
and
ones.
we can do those things. I mean, just,
Yeah,
I mean, I know we were short on money for quite a while, but
sure.
now that we're kind of coming back,
Reason not to
let's,
do it now.
let's make them look
Glad to
good
hear
for our customers here, so,
Right.
thank you.
Okay, you bet, thank you. And then just also in the parks, one of the things we want to do is that restroom between Rayford Stadium and the 12th Street Community Center. I'd like to get that demoed
Please,
out of there,
yep,
just get that
yep.
cleaned up. So we put a little bit in there, I called that on that. And then at the very end of this, last year, we had like the $35,000 for the tennis courts in there in capital. Well, I didn't remove it all. I left like $25,000 in there with not really a specific project, but knowing what the playground group is going to be doing in Playground Park. Once that playground's in there, are we going to want to do improvements to that restroom facility potentially, or?
Absolutely.
They were talking about, that was one of the things they were talking about working on too.
Right, so that's why I kind of left that in there. It can come out or go up, or, but that was
Where,
Be the
where are
next
you
lot.
at there?
He's at
Seven.
capital
835 for capital.
Okay.
25.
There's just 20.
You said tennis courts, you mean, like,
Yes, no, when we
They were in there.
budgeted last year, originally I had $35,000 in here
Right.
for the tennis courts that we're
Right.
doing now.
okay.
So I just didn't want to go to zero on that, so I took some down and put it at $25,000, just to have some sort of
and
money.
that may be one whenever we stay back to 40.
What
just-
shape are the tennis courts in at Coronado Park?
They could need replaced, you bet. They're not as bad as Fifth Street, but yeah.
We may want to motion to keep that, move it back up to 40 then. Again, we'll get some quality of life issues. Like,
Yeah, let's start
Say
kind
they're
of
out
cleaning some
there.
things up. Because it's like, if
I agree.
we fix up Fifth Street, those look good, and then nobody's going to play over there at Coronado, so let's give them some more options.
I agree. I think we've got to the point that, we all value quality of life issues, and the citizens have had to.
Maintaining what we have, we're not even
Citizens-
building new.
The citizens have had to go through that, and it's kind of returned back at not the $1 million.
Another thought, and I've mentioned it before, is on the west of 77, there is not a playground park for children to play in.
Other than the school grounds.
We'll put a slide in your front yard.
Can we?
I'm not sure we need more parks, I'll be
Close to
honest with
yours?
you. I really would question the need for another park. We've got plenty of parks in this town.
I think if we get some more homes going when the new high school goes in, I think we should have a park west of 77. I don't know that we need it next year,
Right.
but with all the lots we have open, I think that would be a good thing to have in
Neighborhood
that
Park in
area.
Southerwood, Southern Highlands.
And I think we need to,
Woods has their little,
kind of get some planning
Valley
going for
School.
the next 3 to 5 years too.
I
Green
think that's,
Valley School's got a big
I think that's
playground.
they're using,
Yeah, but it's way down there.
other end.
Nothing for the north end.
But and the kids are free to go and play and no issues with the school district?
Yeah, yeah, okay. Absolutely. I've never had any trouble taking my grandkids down there, and God knows I do it all the time.
Can I bring up, you've got landscaping on here, we just did all that work on Chestnut, do you have enough people?
We actually,
And are we going to be able to maintain,
we budgeted for, currently we're down there every day, but we budgeted for master landscape or an outside contractor to help us keep, and monthly, keep this in shape. Do contract service, because it is so nice and so great, just to not let it get behind. Got the irrigation working good now. Still have a few little issues with it, but
Well, in irrigation, you gotta stay on every year.
you gotta stay on it almost every day down there, it seems like.
Those heads go squirrely for whatever reason.
That's a rock star improvement, though.
That is a
Yeah.
great.
can expect master landscape or whoever to continue?
Right, we would bid somebody out to do it, but I didn't include that in the contracted services this year.
Good.
Ed, can I ask, and I'm not sure this is the part where it comes in at, but, since Kenny's been gone, who does that now? Do we have anybody that's dedicated to the downtown area?
Not
the
dedicated.
business district to clean up the gutters and I understand we, from past conversations that that's supposed to be the business owners do it, but unfortunately, a lot of times they don't, and then the weeds need to be sprayed in the sidewalks, there's trash in the gutters, and I know Phyllis and her group has been very dedicated to that, but I think that's something that's really, because I do travel a lot through the state in my job, and I do see other towns, and they're spotless.
Sure.
The gutters are clean, there's not sand,
Debris.
water bottles, trash, beer bottles.
Weeds growing in the
And
sidewalk.
ever since Kenny's been gone, I just don't think I've seen the dedication to that we need to,
True.
I don't know what we need to do, whether it needs to be a part-time job or
I saw
some
someone
kind
the
of a
other
job,
day.
but we can't expect the vice mayor and her volunteer groups always to be the ones out doing that kind of thing. I think that's something we need, ever since he's been gone, we haven't anybody do that.
Right, we maintain the flower beds, and then about twice a week, we go through and do a little litter pickup, basically around the trash cans, empty all the trash.
Then you got weeds that come up in the sidewalks, in the tree, around where the trees are.
Right.
And I think it looks
City
terrible.
Hall, they got stuff growing up in the cracks over there.
It looks terrible. You
There
know, when
was
the
someone
business
the other
district
day
starts at
spraying
6,
weeds,
goes down to
wasn't it?
11.
Was
Yeah,
downtown.
over in front of the Opera House.
You know, this area right over here in front of this bar over here
Here.
looks terrible.
Right,
I mean, and I know a lot of that comes because it's the outflow of the bar patrons at
right.
2 o'clock in the morning, but there's nobody to pick it up then, and that's, I don't, because the owners don't. And I just wonder if there's anything that we could do to address that, sir.
Well, you couldn't get a seasonal employee then because
No,
you're
because it's-
talking
yeah.
year round.
But that's what I mean, a part-time employee,
Yeah, 4 hours a day or something.
something like that. I don't know.
Look at it.
That's all, yeah.
Something to explore.
And to also to continue to encourage the business owners to do their part.
Maybe even a semi-retired person or something like that.
Any more questions on the parks part?
Nope.
Next one is the pool. Pretty much stayed in check too. I'll let Josh talk a little bit. A couple of things we want to do this year is, it's time to replace our diving boards, just due to age. Go ahead, Josh, we're not crazy about diving boards, so he's got some options we'd like to tell you about.
We'd kind of like to try and move to get rid of the high dive. What was that, a couple years ago, we went to our insurance conference about aquatics in Kansas City, and they said in the next 5 years, so that's 3 years from now, that they're probably not going to allow high dives anymore. So we're looking at replacing the high dive, and the idea we had was one of the rock walls that just hang over the pool, they climb up and fall into the water. Plus, we need new boards anyway at that point, because our boards are really old. And we used to have 3, because there used to be 3 boards, but one of them broke or something, they took one of them out long ago.
No, we took it after this one, yeah.
Yeah, so now we're down to 2, because one of the 3 boards cracked, so.
That's line on 622, we upped it to 23.5.
622.
On page,
620, yeah.
number 8?
8.
Okay.
So that's what the rock walls cost, $23,500?
That would be the start for one, you can add on to it in the future.
And actually, we kind of budgeted both options. We'd want to keep our low dives, and so we'd want to replace one of the low dive boards, and they're pretty pricey, just the boards alone are like, what'd you say?
$5,000 a piece.
$5,000, just the board. So we'd want to keep the low dive, but then just replace the high dive, take it completely out and put a climbing wall in. And I think yeah,
Yeah, they're both in there.
we put about, yeah.
And then I know with the new park, there was talk about putting the spray park outside the fence. I mean, right now, I do everything by hand with the spray park for the chemicals and stuff, and if we were gonna move for that, we put $4,000 for a chemical controller in there to help with that. Computer to help balance chemicals.
The pool and the spray park are two separate systems. The pool is controlled, way different. And right now, there had never, at the design, was any kind of chemical control system. We do that manually, testing it regularly in the spray park. So if an idea was to open.
In here, right?
Yeah, that's included in here. That's included in this 23,000. But to open that up to where people can walk up anytime on the outside, right now you can go up and just push a button and it kicks on. Well, obviously, if we're not there, we need to make sure the water quality's where it needs to be. That's why we're looking at that.
Well, I think it's good to have a new amenity at the pool. I think that
Yeah.
brings more people in, and have to do that kind of every few years, kind of get some excitement going.
Love to build a new pool, but you're probably talking a minimum of 4 million.
And the rock wall, it's a little safer too, because part of the diving board now is over the concrete. Worst case scenario, if somebody goes off, they're on the concrete. The diving, or the climbing wall is out over the pool. You fall off it, you just fall in the water.
And it's clear, so there's no blind spots we have to worry about or anything.
Can't see on the back, yeah. And this was an idea, we'll do some research before, and go visit some before we actually make a final decision. But by looking, these are the numbers, we thought we could get something done.
It helps the city's insurance. I think that's a good thing.
Well, it won't, it may even help insurance. It'll be, you can't do it.
Well, either or.
It'll be both, but yeah, Josh is thinking ahead.
Good.
Okay, any other questions on the pool?
Nope.
Next one's Spin City. Josh, let's see, go to where your
Is
major
that building
stuff.
paid off next year?
I think
Since it
so.
moved out of our.
Paid off
it's
in
not-
19, I thought.
I knew there was a balloon payment and we refinanced it, what, back in 15?
No, before that.
Spin
Before that
City,
even.
the last payment is next year.
Okay, good. Donna knows that, good.
That's 90 grand we'll get in
Yep.
2020, right? As I recall, it's 90 grand per year.
Something like that. I'll tell you in a second.
Well, I don't have the previous year's history, but next year's final payment's 50,000.
How much?
You don't tell them what your plans are.
But that's the
potentially.
last year, so
The,
I don't know what the,
Balance or whatever.
yeah.
Movie
I don't
theater?
know what it would have been.
Yeah, I thought it was 90 per year. Maybe 50 was the last one. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we're doing 101 this year.
That's going to be under 646.
Yeah, and then 50 next year. That'd be
Just the
principal and
balance,
interest, yeah.
Right.
One more thing paid off.
Yep.
One of the projects we're looking at the Spin City is converting the movie theater to an actual game room. We've done some research and looked and used the big screen and have the games up on the big screen. And then in the theater seating, take a row out and put consoles right there. Right now, they're currently in one of the party rooms. And it's kind of losing its feel. I mean, it gets used, but.
So like a
it's
big video game room or something like
yeah,
that? Is that what you
converting the
mean?
theater into the big, of course, keeping current with the new games, that's changing all the time, and we do that some, but our interest in it's just not that great. This would allow for, what do you call those tournaments, or,
We'd be able to do all the video game tournaments, Guitar Hero and stuff, where they can stand up and have room to
because
play.
they can stand up, or
Use
they can
the
go up in
projector, all that.
So it's got a
playthroughs.
horizontal
So,
before, right?
we have the projector, it's just adding some TVs and some new games.
Our current TVs are like 19-inch TVs, so no one wants to play on those. so-
Everything's, yeah, nobody
Oh, I
wants to play
wonder
on
why.
technology stuff anymore, so.
See
Instead of just buying new, it's time to buy new and then make a change, try to move it out of one of the party rooms.
Game consoles will be gone in 5 years anyway. Everything's going to be streamed and that's it. So
Probably so. Probably so.
So is that the line item 749?
That's actually 646, because we'll be doing all the work ourselves, so that's kind of a commodity line item. We'll be purchasing the TVs, basically, and what we need.
You know, where do we go?
And your 749,
I'm ahead of myself, okay.
I'll let Josh talk about this. I don't throw Ellen under the bus.
Got myself all messed up.
And so our current security cameras are really, what are they, analog? And it's old enough where one of the ports doesn't even work, so we're down a camera. And we budgeted to replace the actual camera server and all the cameras, but it looks like he's done a cut, so we need to upgrade some of that. But we can buy cameras as needed and use our current old cameras, but our old cameras are fuzzy and hard to make out things.
But the main thing is the computer that runs the cameras, it's time to go.
Yeah, it's old.
Because when something goes out, we can't even make any repairs. They can't upgrade.
cameras inside or outside or both or what?
They're all
Majority inside.
We have one outside camera
Got one outside.
on the front door.
I cut back $5,300 to move to the following year, and Ed said that's a workable thing, do the
Half
controller.
and half?
Half, and then come back and
We
do
do
the
the
rest.
controller and some of the cameras now, and then.
Just to spread it out a little
That's
bit.
fine.
Yeah, we just looked at the price. You guys said the price of the cameras was about $795 a piece, and you
Yeah.
needed 16. So we took that total and divided it in half so that they could face the.
Buy the control, half the camera, half the next year.
Yeah, we're good with
That's
that.
workable. Questions?
Okay. John and Nick,
Golf course.
ready for the
Page 11.
golf course.
You guys have all your new mowers yet? Those all come in?
Kind of. We're waiting on 2 greens mowers. The factory was hit by weather earlier this year, so it halted production. But the local vendor brought us 2 mowers exactly like ours to use until ours are done.
Huh?
So
Good.
essentially we do, but
Okay. Save wear and tear on them.
yeah. Haven't put ours in.
Good. Go ahead.
Okay, basically, operations pretty much the same, not really doing much with employees or anything. Nick and John have got some things in here, and let me see where we put those at. It would be under line item 680, irrigation repair, and I'll let Nick explain what he wants to do. He wants to phase in replacing all the controllers for the irrigation on the course.
Yes, our current controllers are 1991 models. This will be basically over 4 years, and this is generous. I feel we can do it over 3 years. Just because we have 18 controllers currently, we can downsize that to 6 controllers. So I think we can do it in 3, but plan on 4 just to be on the safe side. What it would do is shrink our water window. We can't currently put down enough water. We get in drought times like this, and we just can't put down enough water in the time that we're allotted. Our water window would go from 10 hours down to 6, which means our electricity costs go down because we're not running pumps as much. The efficiency of this system also, you have the ability to run it from any mobile device. So the storm comes up, I can turn off irrigation and save $200 because our electricity's not. Or vice versa, if we have rain that misses, we can fire up the irrigation that way. So it's just updating the system, and we currently spend about $1,000 to $1,200 a year on replacing controllers that go bad over time. It just, they're old and we're replacing with.
Probably can't even find parts.
Yeah. They do not make new parts for these controllers, so we have to get refurbished parts for our current controllers. We have to get refurbished parts.
And we think that over the 3 or 4 years, we're gonna still be able to keep running.
Yes.
Because we'd originally talked about, do we want to think about a lease purchase, but
Yeah,
we already just got the lease purchase with
And
all the
way-
equipment we got this
The way
year.
it would
so-
work out is we'd replace all controllers on the course first, and then they have the central controller, which is run by the computer. So you can run standalone controllers, and then that last year we'd have the central controller, and everything would be controlled through that. It's just the brains of the operation.
So 33,000 times 3.
The 20,000. 13,000 is for the just day-to-day irrigation maintenance.
I see the cost of motor fuel has gone up.
That has a lot to do with.
Gas golf carts
Yeah, gas golf carts.
instead of electric golf carts.
Yeah.
So,
Talk about that.
We actually put a separate line item just for the gas for the cart fleet. And we took a guess, John and I talked, and he said, how many rounds it's gonna run, and we just took a guess and said, and we think we tried to make it. what we
they're really
definitely did.
nice. Those new carts are great. I've used one
Yeah.
just for fun, and it was good.
And stuck a number, yeah.
So the chemical costs are decreasing because of the new grass that's put in.
Yes.
From 44,000, we're gonna go down to 25 on that.
Correct, and that number could go down in years to come. There's little cushion built in there for additional seed if we have anything that goes awry.
Yeah, washouts or whatever.
Yeah, just for a safety net. There's a couple chemicals I'm waiting on to see on the price increase. There will be a price increase on a couple chemicals we use a lot of, so that's built into.
So some of that money can go towards the irrigation repair.
Yes, potentially.
Well, the grass you put in last year is coming in really nice.
Thank you.
So that's, and people are noticing. So it's a good thing.
Thank you.
Next year's gonna be good, and year after that's gonna be great, so.
And I really like the social media that y'all are pushing out about the golf course and showing how the grass is looking and how everything's going. So I think that's a plus too.
It's been fun to update people. I mean, I see them in person. They love the updates too.
Yep.
It's really good.
And then the only other thing that we're trying to do extra this year is we're looking, they're wanting to get a new, or a used, but a newer beverage cart for the tournaments, correct? That is?
Yeah, our current beverage cart is, it's pretty ancient. It was there when I got there, so it's at least 8 years old, probably more like 12.
How much are those?
Used, we priced around $6,000.
What about just a gator and some coolers?
That's been
About
being
45.
considered
I mean,
too.
it's probably
Yeah, that's about what.
It's about 45 for a,
No.
Then you
just
can
thinking
use-
something that's multifunctional. You can
Yeah.
use it if you need to
Yeah.
repair something, and then or you can use it for a tournament.
Yeah, a lot of the beverage carts now, basically the back portion of it is an insert. So you're buying a gator and you're
Right.
getting an insert for some additional low cost. So that, yes, we are considering.
What I do.
Since I've been a member out there for many years, it's painfully obvious that we need new flooring in the pro shop, and those bathrooms need a total redo.
the flooring is budgeted in the
Okay.
pro shop. We didn't do anything with addressing the
Just the
restrooms.
kitchen area.
No, we did the whole pro shop.
The flooring
After
is-
you and I talked,
Okay.
we did the kitchen area, but the whole,
Okay.
but not the
Great.
upstairs, the main floor, yes.
Those bathrooms need some attention.
Get an
We
estimate.
talked to the Friends of Rolling Meadows over a year ago about that, about some assistance from them, and they had brought to my attention that basically that bathroom is partially the way it is because it is handicap accessible the way it is. And I kind of hesitate to,
That's a stretch.
well,
I don't buy it.
that's what I was
Still
told.
narrow stall,
Yeah,
and then you got two urinals, one of which, I mean, it's a pretty tight squeeze. I think you go down to one urinal and have one standalone stall, and then you'd be good. But the lighting shot and just it's
Get an
bad.
estimate.
It's like a bad truck stop.
Yep.
And it's not your fault. It's just
yeah, I
it needs to be
agree.
addressed.
I agree.
So
But definitely made a note, well,
I think we need
we'll
to
get you some numbers
look
sooner
at
than
some-
later. on what we
something
can
there.
do.
It's highly used, and it's used by not just our residents, but people from all over the state come through here. So I think we need to look at dressing some stuff up a little bit there.
Great.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Thank you.
It's very visible. I mean, it's a highly visible place for our community, and so we need to do something about it.
Yeah, we were working on getting the billboard up right now.
Yes.
So it's part of this year's budget.
When you,
Have you got any design work at all yet?
Yeah, the initial draft is being, should be sent to me any day.
And
So
tell me
there's a photo.
Okay.
They sent me a photo, that's been approved, and then they're coming up with the actual big tarp or something that they do a design on, and that's what I'm waiting to
You want
approve
yours, Steve?
next.
Billboard?
Yeah.
Yes.
That'll be
Along
appro- It was in this
I-70.
year's budget, yeah.
70.
What's the location again?
Right by Gary Estates, would be westbound. There's a long MacArthur sign up there now.
Gary Estates.
Just past.
the-
the-
the
By
apartment-
Grandview Plaza,
The
sir.
apartment.
All those apartments.
Right
that-
from
Or
Marshall
by
Gate.
Marshall Field?
Marshall Gate,
Yeah.
right there, Marshall
Okay.
Gate.
Basically,
near
right
the
off, you started
storage
getting
field.
off Marshall Field.
A lot of
All the
billboards
other
there.
A lot of
billboards.
them, it's the,
Valley.
That's where Spin
Not
Cities
sure
is
about
kind of
bang
in
for your
that
buck
area.
over there, but
By the old Nick Albritton sign.
that's not, that's not no souvenir was there.
Maybe if there's a place closer.
So I wonder if anybody remembered
You
that.
would email me too at the
funded
same
through
time when you had the
CVB
artwork.
funds or for marketing, or how's that being
I'm
paid?
sorry?
Is that funded through CVB?
No, that was
funds,
under
or-
budget this year.
Budgeted for.
I'm not arguing with your opinion that that should be, but I'm,
Okay. Guess we'll see how it goes.
Ed feels that the billboard we've had up for Spin City has been positive.
Okay.
I don't know the numbers in my head, but what we said it would take to pay for the billboard and additional admissions, it offset it.
Seems like it's busier down there. Every time I drive by, I look down and
And we did that because so many people, they said, we just never knew you were here. I mean, it took a little time. but-
well, you keep making enhancements to the facility, getting things that draw the kids in, they're gonna come.
Got new skates.
Same thing with the golf course.
They got new skates this year.
They're working on them anyway. Yeah, the walkers,
You know,
We need
the
them.
walkers, I call them.
Kids.
yeah.
What's the
When,
status of the driving range? Is it good to go, or?
Yeah,
It's-
the The upper T and lower T are good to go.
Okay.
They've been hitting off the upper T for,
Okay.
we just recently saw a bit this spring.
Great.
We'll also, we're gonna seed the actual range portion of it to Zoysia. Little 2.5 acre Zoysia nursery for
Nice. Good.
Just since Josh is here, Ed had moved Josh as full, in basically the pool manager 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3. Fourth summer, okay. And we now, with change, he's taken over the Spin City thing, and I get no phone calls, so that's a good thing. And Josh did a great job out there and running the place, and I think that's gonna help grow the place too, but a lot of my management level people, if I don't get a phone call, it means they're doing really good. And it has dropped to nothing out there at Spin City, and that's been great. And I want to publicly thank Josh.
Great.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Anything else?
We'll set probably the July meeting.
We got one more to go.
Oh, 12th Street.
One more
No.
short one to go.
There's no budget change there.
No, there's not, but. Donna wants to
Thanks,
talk-
guys.
Donna wants to talk about her floor, I think, a little bit.
I think you lost.
I did.
Give Donna her due.
I'm the real
She wants
loser
to talk
in
about her
this.
floor.
Kind of flip to page 30.
Page 30.
Oh, I knew what that one, that's why I saw that from a distance and stayed away. Where do we got the?
Oh, thank you.
Again, right in, no really changes, no employee changes or additions. Basically, kind of right in check. There's a couple of projects that we budgeted for, and I'm trying to figure out where I put them. Donna would like to talk to you about what we're calling a fitness flooring in her multipurpose room.
Yeah, currently we have various exercise classes.
715 is the line item we're looking at.
Various exercise classes that take place in our multi-purpose room, as well as we have parties and what have you in there. Currently, we have tile that is falling apart. As a matter of fact, I got a bunch of tiles that are cracked and broken and missing. And I would like to put a fitness flooring in there. The original one I really wanted was $30,000, so we looked for other stuff. But the hardest part was to find something that would work for ladies coming in with high heels on and moving tables and chairs and all that kind of stuff, plus having something that'll work and have cushion and stuff for the various fitness classes that we have in there. So I did find something that'll work, and that projected would be about $9,500 or so, and it should make the
Is that in
center
here then?
better.
That's in here?
Yes.
The 9,500 is in here?
Yes.
That's in the 715. And I also wanted to point out too, we've had in the past issues with the roof and leaking and its maintenance issues, but we really narrowed it down. We've got one unit that's giving a little bit of trouble, and the roofers that are here now are going to go out, and what we decided we have to do is put all new flashing, because it's a metal roof, we got a hole cut into it. Basically, the AC unit set on it. We also added some dollars to put all new flashing around all those out there. We've got that new floor in there, and we have one unit that, we got them all stopped, our own staff has, but we have one unit that still gives us trouble. So the unit that's giving us trouble, we're just gonna do it out of this year's budget while they're in town, save the mobilization, but next year, we're gonna have them come back and get all the rest of the units completed. So that's kind of in that maintenance line item also.
So is it a poured flooring or?
No, it's something that'll be, actually it's a cork. It's got the cushion on the bottom, and then it's got the hard,
Vinyl or whatever,
yeah,
laminate or
it's
something on?
bamboo. It says cork with bamboo on the
Okay.
top, and so the bamboo will give you the hard surface, so shoes and what have you, high heels or
That's
moving tables and stuff.
9,500 installed, or is that
Pardon?
just, is that 9,500 installed or just?
It's something that we can install pretty easily.
Okay.
We can.
I don't know, I remember talking about it, but yeah.
It's like a tongue and groove kind of
Okay.
thing that should be easy to install. When I talked to them about it, they'd be more than happy to send their people from Chicago to install it, but that would be a
I'm
pretty
sure they would.
penny to do that. But the guy I talked to said it is quite easy to put in.
Okay. Questions?
Thank you.
Thanks. How'd your new floors turn out? You got redo those this year or was it last year?
The gym floor?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Good.
It's beautiful. It keeps getting dripped on. But you
Great.
need to come see it. It's a gorgeous floor.
Got the pickleball courts on it now.
And the pickleball courts are there.
The only thing, we'll set a date, probably July 3rd, be for probably second week of July, knock it out. We hopefully get the valuation this Friday.
Thank you.
And I'll have some guidance, which I'll convey to you. Library turned their budget in this morning, or yesterday, because they finalized it on Monday. They're only asking for $15,000 more dollars, so, yeah, just great. And other than that, we'll start looking at everything else and see how it all melds together, but.
Good session.
Yep.
I think Miss Phyllis has a special presentation.
Oh, yeah, we'll just do this publicly. Shauna, we know that this is your last, probably session with us, isn't it? So, we got you a little card today, and we all as commissioners signed it. And I picked up this cute little, well, I thought it was a sunflower. I kind of helped make it into it. So it's a pencil, so when you're writing, you can think of us. Or maybe when you're signing your name, remember all those times that sign here, sign here. That's just a little card from us. We sure do appreciate you and everything that you've done for the city. And you're such a hard worker, very smart, and I think a lot of times help to keep us, straight and make sure that we're, signing our names and everything. So we wish you a lot of luck in your next adventure. We don't say goodbye here. We say we'll see you later because we know you'll be coming back. So with that, we sure appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
For all you've done, Sean.
Motion to end this?
Please.
Make a motion that we adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you and good night. Good job, everyone. Good job.